Hi guys, Sam here from Cuttlebrook Koi Farm. I'm here today to bring you the 2021 question and answer video. It's currently winter time here on the farm, which means all the ponds are drained, all the fish have been bought indoors for winter in the nice warmth. As always, it's been another challenging yet eventful year on the farm. Fingers crossed this video gives you an insight of what we'll be up to this year. Hopefully you can answer some of the questions you guys have put forward, and it gives you an idea of what you've got to look forward to next year in 2022. So sit back, enjoy, and hopefully you enjoy this informative video.
Kinky Tsuri spawning because it was a fish that I chose when we went out to Japan a few years back, and it didn't really work last year. There was something not quite right about her. Thought we were going to lose her, but she rallied and used her again this year, and it worked perfectly. And some really nice offspring.
I've really enjoyed watching the Tsuri. I remember clearing some weed in the pond and getting my first glimpse of a Tsuri at about ½ an inch long. And it was like, wow, that's pretty special. And then when we got them out at first selection, it was, oh my God, that's pretty good. And then we got them out at the end of the year. It's just, yeah, it's just fantastic.
The Tsuri and definitely the Kinky Tsuri, because I'm seeing them now at like 3 inch, and the black's getting so strong, the patterns are just coming out, and to see them like 6 inch plus, they're going to look amazing.
I think for me, the variety that I like is the Tsuri. The black and the reds are fascinating to watch them grow on the smaller fish that are coming through. So it'd be interesting to see them as they grow.
The Issa Showa. So we've now, for the first time, we've got some Nisai Issa Showa coming through the line. So most of the good ones of these are being grown on in our Nisai house. These fish are sort of 40, 50 cm, and they're developing exactly how we sort of hoped they were going to. The Benny has gone to a lovely, bright, almost like postbox red kind of colour. Black is still ink black like our previous Showas have been, and the skin quality is just phenomenal on these fish. They stand out an absolute mile off.
So we spawn the fish the Japanese way. We don't use hormones to stimulate the fish to ovulate. We use a completely natural way of doing things.
So the males and females are separated out in sort of early spring.
So we will put them in a tank which has only got just enough water to cover their back. Nice clean water, spawning ropes, very gentle aeration.
And at this point, all their hormone levels are really high, so when they see each other again after a couple of months apart, this normally is enough to sort of trigger them to spawn.
As it starts to get dark, and this is the important bit, we get night lights, little night lights, and we'll stick them around the top of the tank with some petals, some rose petals on the surface of the water, a few chocolates, a bottle of champagne.
So this normally happens in the early hours of the morning. What we do is, once they've started spawning, we let them go for about sort of ½ an hour to an hour to make sure the female is fully flowing with her eggs. We then catch the female up, we anaesthetize her, she sort of goes all calm, and then we manually hand strip the eggs out of the female. We then catch up the males, same thing again, strip the milk out of the males and mix it in with the eggs.
The important thing for us is the welfare of the fish. The important thing is that we don't damage them, we don't harm them, because once we find a special set, then we need to keep them spawning for as long as we can, and we don't like hurting anything, we don't like damaging anything, so it's very important that we look after the welfare of the fish.
Grading, the spawning of fish, mostly the grading, just because you get to see all the fish coming through, what they look like from a small size, and then you get to just watch them develop and see whether they go good, bad, and what actually happens to them.
The part of my job that I enjoy the most is actually the variety, that every day is different. You come in, you don't know what's going to happen in each day, so it's really nice to have a job where some days you could be working outside, some days you could be working inside in the office, so I really like that.
The selecting side of it. I can see the future in what I'm looking through. Yeah, I just love the selection side of it. I think that's the best bit.
I love the variation my job has. Everyone thinks fish farming is just about chucking food in a pond and the fish are going to grow. Job done, you sell them, move on. One day could be photographing fish, other day could be selecting fish, then we could be strewing ponds, we could be weeding ponds. indoors, outdoors, it just completely depends.
The best part for me about joining the farm is being able to see the breeding process of koi. I've not had any previous experience of koi farming, so to be able to watch it from breeding, going through the spawning right the way through to harvesting, it's been a really interesting process for me to watch and something new for me to learn.
My favourite fish is a shower. It's not for sale yet, it's growing on. It's got fantastic body shape, ticks every box as far as I'm concerned. It's got this amazing sort of black detail to it. It's like Japanese calligraphy, which I understand is called shodo. So I'm calling it shodo.
That's a tricky one, but there is a really nice shower in the Nisai house. It's a monster. Yeah, it's a lovely fish. I don't think it's a classic, amazing show-winning fish, but it is a beautiful fish, and that's what it's all about.
It's probably the big Deutsch Kraschigo. I've just not really seen a fish like it, and the size of it is getting, I don't even know what length it's going to be when we measure it and boil it up. But yeah, it's a real impressive fish.
Platinum ogon that's in the blue room. It's a beautiful fish, and when the sunlight catches it, it just glimmers in the water. It is really lovely.
We have a tancho shower, which is just mind-blowing. We kept this fish very quiet. Not many people have seen it, but it is absolutely stunning. The skin quality is amazing. The sumi pattern for a tancho shower is just mind-blowing. The spot is fantastic. It's really good deep colour. And we're actually planning on bringing this fish on sale next year, so keep an eye out if you're after a really nice tancho shower.
The hardest part was Bryn, our youngest son, who came to work with us in lockdown, did a fantastic job, but he decided it was time for him to move on. He was replaced by 2 fantastic new employees, so that's great. So there was a downside with an upside.
So we've got Shane, who is essentially going to be Mark's right-hand man on the farm, helping with all the spawning selection, basically the fish production side of it. We've also got Tracy, who is amazing, super organised office staff, and her job is essentially to keep customers happy. Both of them have come in and settled in and done an absolutely amazing job, far better than we could have ever expected. And it's definitely seen a big improvement on the quality of fish we're producing, the numbers of fish we're producing, and definitely the customer service we're able to deliver now.
We also have 2 part-time staff, one of which we took on for the whole of the season, and that's T. Her main priority is making up the food to ship out to people, but she does other things on the farm. She cuts grass, she gets involved in anything that needs doing really. And Jess has been with us for years now. I think she started part-time when she was 13, just working Saturdays. And now she's taking her A-levels. I can't believe it. But she still comes and works here weekends and during the summer.
The farm is in a village called Towersey, and that is near Tame in Oxfordshire.
Appointments are needed since COVID.
They are on Fridays and Saturdays generally, and we have time slots.
And you can do that easily through the website or simply phone Tracy in the office, and you'll get shown around by either Sam or Mark, and I'm sure you'll have a great time. He's a little rascal, I'll be honest. You've got to watch out for him.
Sam always behaves himself. He's a diamond.
No.
Impeccably.
We'll let the public decide. Wow, what can I say? Magic.
Kahaku. They're nice and easy to do. Very simple pattern, you're not worrying about any black pigment on them. So kahaku, nice and straightforward, nice and easy. At first selection, you're really just looking for a kahaku pattern. Start to see the pattern appear at about 3 weeks, but really, 4 or 5 weeks is the best time to start looking at the pattern. The better the quality of the parents, obviously, the better quality of the offspring. But quite straightforward fish. So I started the farm in 1989. The inspiration came from working with various koi companies in the UK, and they all promised that it was going to be breeding koi, and it just didn't happen. Promises never came to fruition. The opportunity I could see was never going to happen, and if I was going to do it, I'd have to do it myself. Found the site and started, once we got the planning permission, started digging the mud ponds. But I started it at a really bad time. I started it at the time when the recession started, and we ended up losing it all in the recession in '92. That's when I started landscaping. I worked my socks off because the kids came along, and it was tough times, but always had that dream that we were going to make it work. And I still had access to the mud ponds, and I still was able to spawn and breed every year, which we did. Even though we couldn't invest in the site because it didn't belong to us, it belonged to my ex-business partner. And it came to the point in 1998 when he decided he was going to sell up the farm, and we had 15 acres. But we could only afford at the time 6 acres from the 15. But it became ours, and we could invest in it. It was a huge leap of faith. It was one of those things where Lisa and I sat down and we said, look, if we don't do it, we're going to regret it for the rest of our lives. And fortunately, the hard work's paid off.
So when we first moved onto the farm, we didn't actually have a house to live in. So we got a flat pack, second-hand, sectional school building, just wooden. And it got put on the back of a lorry, brought up to the farm, and Mark built it. And it was pretty sort of scabby looking, and some panel was rotten. Mark had to rebuild them. And we lived in that for 8 years. We always referred to it as our shed. And I think people who came to visit, for example, one person said to Mark, oh, my wife wouldn't put up with that. But it was a happy home for us. When we moved in, our youngest, Bryn, he was not quite 4 years old, and Connor would have been 5 or 6. But it didn't really matter that it was not the most attractive place to live. We just loved being together. It didn't really matter that it wasn't a proper house, as it were. And we lived there for 8 years, and then we got to build our current home, which of course is much nicer. But I don't regret living in our little sort of shed for 8 years. It was all part of our journey, and we were happy.
So I'd say the most common mistake is people not cleaning their filters enough, and there's dead spots on the pond where dirt builds up, parasites are allowed to just grow and just manifest, and just not keeping your pond generally clean, and definitely not enough water changes.
Touching, bowling, getting involved with their fish too much. They just leave your fish to it.
It's misunderstanding water quality and where the issues might lie with the quality of their water in relation to the health of their fish.
Quarantining, to be honest. Everyone says it time and time again, but it's the simplest and easiest solution to keeping pests coming into your pond. In an existing pond, the best thing you can do to stop any parasites coming in is to shut out any wildlife. So put on a cover on your pond, put some netting around the side of it. Any birds, even slugs, snails, anything that can live can bring in parasites. So anything you can do to keep anything living out of your pond, the better.
It's really a classic. You're looking for skin quality, body shape. You have to learn to recognise how they're likely to develop.
I guess if you start to look at the kahaku pattern, you can really see the pattern at 5 weeks old. It might be quite vague. Sometimes it can be hard to see the pattern, but it is there if it's going to be there in the future. And the thing to do is just look for an even balanced pattern. Looking at balance front to back, left to right. Ideally with the kahaku, you want a white nose, you want a white tail.
You can start to see, sort of even sashi and kia on a young sort of fry, you can see, do they have nice defined patterns on them? So everything you'd look at in a big koi, just scale it down, and it's much more of an instinct when the fish are smaller.
The most likely reason your fry are getting deformed is they're not getting enough food, or they're not getting the right food.
Small fish have a very different nutritional requirement to larger fish. They require a much higher level of protein. They require much more vitamins and other minerals in their diet to stop them getting deformities.
So a bit like a baby, you're not going to feed a baby the same food you're going to eat yourself, so you need to tailor that nutrition for the fish at that age and that in development. The best thing you can do is just to feed a really good high quality fry food. Don't skimp on thinking, oh, I just want to crush up my food to feed to the fry. That is the worst thing you can do. Even like a 40% high protein diet is still going to cause these issues. You need a sort of a fry specific food. And other people will feed a specific fry food but won't feed enough of it. They'll come back to us in, say, April, 8 months after they bought their fish, and they'll say, oh, I'm getting deformity issue with my fry. And we'll say, how big are your fries? Say, oh, well, they're only 3 inches. Well, if they've only grown 1.5 inches in 6 months, then you're clearly not doing something right. In the right temperature and the right growing conditions, you can get about 1 inch a month. So if you're getting nowhere near that and your fish are starting to deform, then you're probably not getting enough food inside them. So both of them are nutrition related and essentially have the same outcome.
We don't heat our fish at all over winter unless they are ones that we are growing. So all the other fish, all our stock fish, all the fish that we have for sale, they're cold. All our brood fish, they're cold. I don't think you need to heat the water unless you really want to. What a lot of the Japanese koi farms do is they heat their water to about 14 degrees centigrade if they are going to keep their best fish on, and they barely feed them during the winter months. They give them a winter and they keep them at 14 degrees. The immune system's ticking over. It's not flat out. Flat out would be over 18 degrees, but 14 degrees is a nice temperature. Or you can take it down to 10 degrees and keep it stable, which a lot of people do. The best thing to do is make sure they go into the winter clean and healthy, and the chances are they'll come out clean and healthy.
So it depends really what you want out of your pond, because you couldn't put a 100 centimetre shag over 2 centimetre shag because he's just going to eat them. But then you could have an 8-inch fish with a 6-inch fish. It's just sort of varying it and balancing it out so your fish don't eat each other.
All depends on what else you've got in the pond. If you've got a bottom drain, if you've got big fish, things like that. But to be honest, as a rule of thumb, personally, I won't go any smaller than, say, 6 inches.
Water changes.
The best way, to be honest, of reducing nitrates is just to do water changes.
If you're going to go down the route of doing something like a vegetable filter, you're going to need a vegetable filter about 10 times the size of the surface area of your pond. And if you're going to go down the anoxic filter route, then again there's a bucket of worms in that as well. Just turn the tap on. It's the simplest, quickest and easiest option. The best chemical you can add to your water is water.
And to be honest, a lot of people overthink nitrates. Nitrates isn't a massive issue for fish. As long as you've got no ammonium nitrites and you're doing decent water changes, I almost wouldn't worry about your nitrates too much.
So my joy outside of work are my 2 dogs, IJ and Suki, because they are hours of fun.
It's got to be my bike. I've taken up motorcycling. Puts the biggest smile on my face. It's great. Yeah, I love it, love it, love it. It's my release.
I love my fishing, and that's actually how I got into farming, just carp fishing, and then it just went from there. I learned you could go spar shell, and then I learned a bit about koi, and I don't mind the odd beer and going out of an evening with my friends too.
My main hobbies are walking and hiking. I enjoy climbing up mountains and putting a bit of a fear factor in and putting myself in challenging situations, and I also enjoy bodyboarding and getting in the sea at any opportunity, or the river or the water, any kind of water.
I've got like fishing, surfing, wakeboarding, do a bit of scuba diving, so it's quite a trend there. Most things water related are definitely my kind of thing.
Ooh, I built myself a Dainichi style fish house. Huge, great big tanks, massive, great big steel frame building. I can't see Lisa wanting to part with £1 million that would cost to build it.
Probably one massive fish house with some really big ponds. Whereas if money wasn't an issue, we could have a load of big ponds, grow a load of fish big, and sort of really prove what the genetics of our fish can do.
Are the Kimchi-Zuri and the Hiyazuri going on sale? I'm sure everyone's going to love them. They're fantastic.
The Hiyazuri. This just hands down the Hiyatsuri. We're seeing them at the moment, the patterns coming through. I haven't seen like fish like the Hiyatsuri we got coming through in the country, to be honest. They're going to be so impressive.
Next year, we are planning on breeding some Sakai Sankey. Sakai are known for being by far the most superior Sankey out there, so we're going to try and hopefully produce some absolutely mind-blowing Sankey.
Yeah, do not get COVID, work hard and breed a lot of koi for Cuttlebrook.
Probably like every year, to be honest, just improve the quality year on year, be breeding better fish, bigger fish, be really good to sort of refine the growth rate and grow some more bigger fish to prove what we can do here.
The aim for next year would be to continue to provide really good customer service. It's something that we pride ourselves on here, and I look forward to next year being out there for our customers and answering any questions they've got, and ensuring that their fish all arrive safely.
Sadly, that is everything for today. Thank you to everyone who put forward questions for today's video. We hope you found the responses useful and interesting. If there's anything we've talked about, anything you want to go into a bit more depth, drop us a message and we'll try our best to answer your questions. And a massive thank you to all our brilliant customers for all your help and support over the past year. Fingers crossed in 2022 we can bring you some even better fish. From myself and the rest of the Cuttlebrook Koi Farm team, we hope everyone has a fantastic Christmas and New Year. Keep safe, and we look forward to seeing you on the farm in 2022.